So um, for today's practice, uh, we are going to use the wall at one point. We're going to do legs up the wall. So you're, just so you know, at some point in the practice, ideally you can put your legs up on a wall. You could probably use a chair or a couch or something if you don't have a wall, but a wall would be probably optimal. Other than that, we're just going to need our bodies and our mats. So let's make our way over to our mats. And we'll start lying down. So go ahead and lie back. And I'm just going to make sure you're all muted. And as you're lying back, place your feet on the floor. Maybe I didn't mute you all. There we go. Okay. Place your feet on the floor and just take this time to feel your body. Notice how your body's feeling this morning. Maybe, you had a lot going on yesterday physically, and maybe there's some, muscle tightness or stiffness, or maybe your body's feeling super awesome and wonderful this morning. Just notice. And as you're paying attention to the feeling of your body, begin to notice the feeling of your breathing. Let the breath flow in and let the breath empty out. If you're able to breathe in through your nose, do that. If you're stuffed up, that's fine. You can have your mouth open. And your exhalation can be through the nose, or you can let it empty out through your mouth. But deepen your breath. Let the breath be a little deeper. Feel your ribs moving. Feel the diaphragm descending so that the belly kind of lifts a little bit. And as you exhale, feel how there's just that releasing. The belly softens, the ribs soften in, and all the breath empties out. We begin in this way by practicing feeling our bodies and feeling our breath. This is the foundation of our practice. This practice is about getting in touch with our bodies, working with our bodies to have an impact as well on the state of our minds. So you can continue to breathe deeply or transition to a more natural breath rhythm. But at this point, check in with the state of your mind. How are you feeling mentally, emotionally this morning? There's a lot going on in our world. And maybe it's, really present in our mind in this moment, or maybe, we're just having a nice, peaceful morning. But notice, consider how you're feeling mentally, emotionally. And once we understand how we're feeling, we can consider what we're needing. What do you need a little more of based on how you're feeling? We all need love and compassion. Sometimes we just need to trust ourselves. Sometimes we need a little encouragement or some patience or acceptance. What do you need? Maybe pick one thing and just focus on that for the next hour, breathing that in. take a few more conscious breaths, maybe breathing in that intention, that focus for your practice today. And then with your next full release of breath, you can open your eyes. So this morning I'd like us to focus on finding neutral pelvis. So chances are, as you're lying down with your feet on the floor, you're in neutral. So let's explore that a little bit. If we were to flatten our backs, kind of try to create some flattening in the back or sliding the tailbone toward the heels, we tend to kind of come into a bit of a posterior pelvic tilt. The pubic bone starts to tip up and the back flattens. Now you can do this by gripping the muscles of your butt, but I don't want you to grip your butt muscles. I just want you to kind of flatten, slide your tailbone toward your heels and feel your spine flattening out a little bit. Your pubic bone tilting up a little bit without a lot of clenching in the muscles of your butt. And then release that and just, you'll probably drop into neutral. Now let's do the opposite. If we take the hip bones and we tip them forward so that we're creating more of a little curve under the low back, this is anterior pelvic tilt. We're tipping the pelvis forward. The pubic bone, not the pubic bone, the hip bones come forward and there's more room under the spine. A little bit of arching of the low back, and then release back to neutral. So notice that feeling of neutral. Let's go back and forth again. So we're going to slide the tailbone toward the heels and flatten the low back. So you kind of lift the pubic bone up. This is our posterior pelvic tilt. And then release back to neutral. And I want us to really imprint, what does neutral feel like? Compared to tipping the hip bones forward, creating more of a curve in the low back, anterior pelvic tilt, and then going back to neutral. And how does neutral feel? So one more time, flattening, posterior tilt, and then back to neutral, and then tipping the pelvis forward, making that bigger curve in your low back, anterior pelvic tilt, and then back to neutral. So here we are in neutral. So can you maintain neutral if you lift one foot off the floor and bring your knee up and release that foot back down? Can you maintain neutral as you bring the other knee up? It's not too hard when you bring one foot up at a time. Can you maintain that neutral spine as you bring both knees up? And then especially as you bring your feet back down, the back wants to tip you want to go into anterior tilt. Can you maintain neutral as your feet go back down? Try that again. Bring your knees up. Can you maintain neutral? So it requires you to engage your core to keep from tilting as your feet lower back down. Let's try that one more time. Bring the knees up. Can you maintain neutral even as your feet release back down to the floor? Great. All right, let's pick the feet up again and then extend one leg out. Can you maintain neutral as one leg is extended? Bring the knee back. Extend the other leg out. Can you maintain neutral here? And bring that knee back. All right, let's lift our heads up, clasp our hands beneath the head, take a breath in, exhale and curl up, head, neck, and shoulders. So then we kind of imprint the low back a little bit when we're here. But as we extend one leg out, can you try not to let the low back arch? Now that leg that's extended, bring your opposite arm, or that same arm across to the opposite knee. And then bring the knee back, release the head down. Breathe in. Exhale and curl up, extend the other leg, and then that elbow comes across to the opposite knee. And then bring the knee in, release back and breathe. Exhale and curl up, extend the leg and twist across. Bring the knee back, release back and breathe. Exhale and curl up, extend the other leg and come across, and then come back and down. So just continuing this sort of bicycle type of movement, coming up, twisting across. So we're just kind of waking up the oblique muscles here as we focus on maintaining as much neutral spine as possible. Let's do that one more time on each side. Come up, twist across, and go back down. Come up and twist across, and go back down. All right, release your head. Your knees are still bent. Can you take both legs out on an angle and try to maintain neutral, and then bring the knees back? So if your legs are up fairly high, shouldn't be too hard potentially. As we start to take the legs further out, it might become more challenging. Well, it will become more challenging to maintain neutral. So how much of an angle can you bring your legs to and still maintain that neutral spine so you're not tipping the pelvis forward? Maybe try that a couple more times. And keep breathing. Try not to hold your breath. All right, let's hug the knees in and release any tension as you maybe sway your knees side to side. And take a breath. And then come center, lower your feet down. Let's roll to the side. Roll onto your side, and you can let your head rest on your bottom arm, or you could slide a blanket under there if you prefer. Your other hand can come onto your hip. Let's bend the knees so that your knees face whatever the device is that you're looking at. So you're here with bent knees. Let's lift the top leg up to the height of the hip, and then extend that heel forward. So that leg is kind of on a right angle with your body. Your foot is flexed. So just begin by lifting that leg up a little higher and then coming back to the height of your hip. Lift that leg up a little bit higher and then come back to the height of the hip. One more time like that. Lift it up and then back to the height of the hip. Now let's do little circles. We're going to circle that leg around. Little circles. Circle that leg around. We're just working on hip strength and mobility here. A little circle around and little circle around. And we're going to go in this direction one more time and then just change the direction of that circle. Circle it around the other way. Little circles. About the height of the hip, a little bit higher than the hip, a little bit lower than the hip. Circling that foot around. Maybe one or two more times. Great. Go ahead and bend the knee. We're going to drop the knee down in front of the other knee. Lift the knee up and drop the heel behind the heel. Lift the knee up and drop the knee in front of the bottom knee. Lift the knee up and drop the heel behind the other heel. Just a couple more like that. Knee drops in front. Lift it up. Heel drops behind. Lift it up. Knee drops in front. Lift it up. Heel drops behind. Great. Go ahead and relax that knee on the other knee. Push yourself up. Swing your legs around in front and just come down onto the other side. So again, maybe you put something under your head or just rest your head on your arm. Other hand goes to your hip. We'll bring the knees kind of on a right angle to the body. We'll lift the top knee up to the height of the hip. Press that heel forward. Leg is straight out in front of you. And can you just lift the leg higher than the hip and then bring it forward? Lift the leg higher than the hip and bring it forward. Two more times like that. Sometimes the second leg is harder because you're stabilizing with your bottom hip. All right, let's make little circles. Little circles going a little higher than your hip, maybe a little lower than your hip. Try not to move your trunk. Try not to move the pelvis so much, just working in the leg. And then let's change direction. Circle the leg the other way. Keeping the foot flexed. We'll do a couple more. Nice job. All right, let's bend the knee. And we're going to drop that knee in front of the other knee. Lift the knee up, drop that heel behind the other heel. Lift the knee up, drop that knee in front of the other knee. Lift the knee up, drop the heel behind the heel. Do that a couple more times. Kind of working these glute muscles here. And last one. Knee in front of the knee, and then heel behind the heel. Good job. All right, let that knee rest on the other knee. Make your way around onto all fours. As we come onto all fours, we're going to play around with that idea of pelvic tilt again. So as we're here, maybe the belly is dropped and we're tilting the pelvis forward. So let's just start with what might feel like neutral spine. And we're not going to do the whole spine. We're just going to work in the lumbar spine, in the low back. So I want you to let the hip bones tip downward towards the floor. So your tailbone kind of tips up, and then come to neutral, and then do the posterior tilt. So you're sending your tailbone down toward the floor, and your hip bones are kind of pulling more toward the ceiling. And then come back to neutral. So just in your low back, let your hip bones drop down, your tailbone tip up, and then come back to neutral. And then posterior, drop your tailbone down, and your hip bones kind of come more up. And then come back to neutral. So now we'll start just with the low back, dropping the front of the hips down, lifting the tailbone up, and then let that extension ripple through your spine. So you're going to continue into your upper back and look forward as you breathe in. And then starting from your tailbone, send your tailbone back. Start to tip your tailbone down. So you're rounding your low back, and then let that ripple through your spine until you release your head down. And then from the tailbone, start to send the tailbone back. Start to tip it up. And let that arching extend all through the spine as you eventually bring your head forward. Breathe in. And then from the tailbone, send it back. Start to send it down. And then round all through your spine until your head drops down. Great. And then come back to your flat back. Great. All right, let's lower onto our forearms. So we're going to just give our wrists a little break. We'll come onto our forearms. Let's curl the toes under and lift the knees up. So this is just going to kind of wake up the muscles in the upper back. And we activate the core a little bit here. And we'll take a breath. And then we'll drop to knees. And we'll come back up onto all fours. All right, let's take one leg back. Either leg. Press back through your heel. And flex your foot. See if you can get that leg about as high as your body. Like it's not lower, it's not higher, it's straight back. All right, so notice as you sent your leg back, if you dropped into a anterior tilt, can you keep your spine neutral with your leg behind you? Let's drop the toe to the floor and then lift the leg straight back. And we'll do that motion a few times with the goal of keeping neutral spine, right? So the abdominals can support the low back so that we're not dropping the hip bones forward and arching into the low back. So the leg is lowering down and coming back up, but we're maintaining neutral spine. Now lift that leg and hold it back. Take the opposite arm and reach it forward. Can you get nice and long, heel to fingertip, maintain neutral spine, and take a breath. Nice job. Release that hand, release that knee. Let's try the other leg. Sending that heel back, pulling your toes to the floor. A lot of us, we're going to start to arch the back when the leg goes back. So engage the belly and see if you can find neutral spine. No curve, no exaggerated curve in your low back. Can you maintain that as you drop your toe to the floor and then lift the leg straight back? Drop your toe to the floor. As that leg goes straight back, press out through your heel. Drop your toe to the floor. Press the leg straight back. Drop your toe to the floor. Extend straight back. One more time. Doing this, maintaining neutral spine. And then with that leg behind you, reach your opposite arm out in front and hold here. Can you maintain neutral spine? Can you press out through your heel, reach long through your arm, and take one more breath. Great. Release your hand, release your knee. Let's take child's pose. We're going to sit back on our heels, round forward. Arms could be out in front. Arms could be supporting your head or arms alongside your body. As we arrive here, a nice opportunity to check in. How are we feeling? And what is that focus or that intention that we have for this morning's practice? How's it going? So after you take one more deep breath in and out, with your next inhale, you can open your eyes, reach your arms way out in front, and make your way up to downward facing dog. Let's really feel our hands firmly connected, pressing into the floor as we let the hips draw up and back, letting the head hang. So notice here, are your hands and arms wide enough that you feel space between your shoulder blades? You don't want your shoulder blades kind of collapsing in towards each other. We want to have some space across the upper back. Can you create some space across your upper back? You can just broaden between your shoulder blades. You might decide you can have more freedom if your hands are slightly wider apart. So as we create some space across the upper back, then maybe the neck has a little more freedom for the head to hang freely. With all that going on in the area of the shoulders and the neck, can we at the same time draw the hips way up and back to lengthen the spine? We'll take a breath in. As we exhale, let's bend a knee and press a heel to the floor, and then alternate, bending the other knee, letting the other heel press down. Just enjoying a stretch in the lower leg here. And then let's bend both our knees a bit. Take one more big stretch with the hips way up and back as we breathe in and out. And then we'll walk our hands back towards our feet, dropping the heels down, ended up bend, folded over, bent knees, arms and head loose and heavy. From here, once our feet are firmly planted, let's bend the knees and lower the hips. Just bring your hands to your hips now. And with your weight kind of backing your heels, push down into your feet and legs to bring yourself upright. Great. Okay, let's turn and face towards the screen with our feet beneath us. We're just gonna lift our heels up. And you might have a little heel raise, or you might try coming up a little higher, which might make you more wobbly. And then we're just gonna lower down. So we're gonna rise up, lifting the heels, and then lower the heels down. So one option is to just do this, just like this, a few more times. You could also try, as you rise up, could you lift one foot off the floor and then lower down? So rise up, try the other side. Lift one foot off the floor and just lower down with one leg. So rise up, lift one foot off, and then lower down. And then rise up, lift the other foot off, and lower down. Just asking a little more of the ankle on the supporting leg. Let's take the feet wide. Sumo position, heels wider than hips, toes turned out. And we'll take the hips back and the knees forward into our sumo position. So making sure that the knees are tracking forward over the toes and the hips are sticking way back behind us. And then same idea, we're gonna lift the heels up real high and lower them down slowly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do that again. Lift the heels up high and slowly lower. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's this time just lift the heels up just barely, so they're hovering close to the mat, and then we'll straighten our legs. Can we keep the heels just hovering close to the mat and come back into our sumo squat? Hips back, knees forward, and with the heels really close to the mat, again, straightening the legs. We'll do that one more time. Hips back, knees forward. Heels are very close to the mat, but not quite touching. And then straightening up. Getting that pelvic floor working here. Great, drop your heels, bring your feet together. Let's come to the front of the mat. standing with our feet pressing down so that we stand nice and tall. Let's reach the arms out, broaden. We'll reach the arms up, breathing in. And as we exhale, let's swan dive forward. Once we're folded over, bent knees, let's take a deep breath into our upper back. And as we exhale, can you extend the spine from right between the shoulder blades? Do that again. Breathe into your upper back as you drop your head down. And exhale and extend your spine, especially right between the shoulder blades. You could have your hands on shins here if that's better for you. All right, let's bring our hands to the floor and step back to downward facing dog. We'll breathe in and out here. And then lower to straight arm plank. Holding this position here, long and strong. Take a breath. And then can you use your core to lift back up to downward facing dog? All right, so it's really great as we get older to be maintaining the ability to bear our body weight, right? We're supporting the weight of our body with our arms and our hands. Could you lift one hand off the floor and put it back down? Could you lift another hand off the floor and put it back down? If that's available to you, could you take one hand and touch your opposite knee and then put that hand back down? And then take the other hand and touch the opposite knee and put it back down. Great. Now let's lower to straight arm plank. So this next variation can be done with your knees off the floor, or you might want to put your knees on the floor behind you. So as we're here, could we lift one hand off the floor and put it back down? Could we lift another hand off the floor and put it back down? We won't try to touch our knees here, but we might try that one more time. Can we lift one hand up and put it back down? Can we lift another hand up and put it back down? Nice work. Let's take a breath here, and then we'll lower down. You might drop to your knees first as you lower into the mat. All right, once we're down on our bellies, prone mountain, we'll slide the heels of the hands back, rotate the chin in so that the nose is just hovering off the floor, pressing back through the toes as we lengthen through the crown. So if we're here, we could send the tailbone down toward the heels. And we could do that by clenching the butt muscles, but we could also not clench and just kind of create a little more space in the low back, right? You're just lengthening your tailbone toward your heels. Your toes are reaching back, your tailbone is reaching back. Then we're lengthening through the crown of the head. So now slide your shoulder blades up toward your ears. Slide your shoulder blades down toward your heels. Do that again. Slide your shoulder blades up toward your ears. Slide your shoulder blades down toward your heels. And then let them land right where they naturally live. From right between your shoulder blades now, start to lift your chest up. As we lift the chest up, could we think about pulling the sternum more forward as we're sliding the tailbone back? Yeah, creating length in the spine here. We're not pushing up with the hands at all. We could lift our hands a little bit off the floor. We're pulling the sternum forward and sliding the tailbone back. Let's take a breath. And then release the hands and release the chest. Let's try that again. So we're sliding the tailbone toward the heels. We're not gripping in the butt muscles. We're just creating a little length in the low back. And then from right between the shoulder blades, we'll lift the chest up. Start to pull the sternum heart forward a little bit. We could stay here in baby cobra, or as our hands press down, we might, rather than thinking about going up higher, think about pulling more forward. Pull your sternum more and more forward as you come up to cobra. Take a breath, and then lower back down. Nice job. Let's push back to knees, take the hips back, and go all the way back to child's pose. So from extension, we'll move into spinal flexion here. And we'll take a few breaths here. Checking in. What's our motivation? What are we cultivating this morning? Then with our next inhale, lift your head up, reach your arms out, and make your way up to downward facing dog once again. Take a breath in and out here. And then I'd like you to drop onto knees. So come onto your knees. If kneeling, we're going to stand on our knees. If that's bothersome for your knees, go ahead and put your blanket under your knees. If being on your knees is really uncomfortable, you could be standing with a chair and doing this more as a lunge. So we're going to take one foot out in front. Doesn't matter which foot. And get your heel kind of beneath your front knee. So the weight's all on one knee. So again, if you need a cushion, put a cushion under there. So we're going to think about this idea of the positioning of the pelvis again. So when we come into this position, a lot of us are going to start to anterior tilt. We're going to start to tip the hip bones forward and kind of send the tailbone back, right? So can we find neutral? So this is going to be something you're going to have to feel in your bodies because you can't really see yourself probably. So it might be challenging. So maybe you try this with a mirror later, but see at this point if you can kind of feel it in your body. So your foot is out in front. How would it feel if you sent your tailbone down and kind of started to tip your pelvis back a little bit? I don't want you to clench your butt muscles, but just kind of think about a slight amount of posterior tilt and then release back to neutral. And then how does it feel if you tip forward and then come back to neutral? Because sometimes it's easiest to find neutral when you compare it to other things. So if you were to slide your tailbone down, come into a posterior tilt, how does that feel versus neutral? And then a lot of us spend a lot of time tipping the hips forward. So bring it back to neutral. So once you've found neutral, can you maintain neutral if you start to bend your front knee forward? Because what a lot of us are going to do as we bring the weight onto the front foot is we're going to tip the hips forward. And we're going to try and get this stretch by tipping from the pelvis. But can we keep the pelvis neutral as the knee moves forward? And so the stretch is really happening in the thigh and in the front of the hip rather than just from tilting the pelvis forward. So maintaining that neutral. You might kind of have to think about a little bit of sending the tailbone down to keep from tipping the pelvis forward, but I don't want you to grip in the butt. All right, so we're just doing this incrementally, and we're just trying to feel that we're able to maintain neutral. And we may not go that far in bringing the front knee forward, but ideally, you're feeling a nice amount of stretch in this back leg. Okay, take a breath. And then let the weight move back. So your hip is right over your knee. Now from here, you might want to put your hand on your front knee. Can you curl your back toe under, gather your strength, and lift up into a lunge? So we still kind of have the knees kind of bent. So as you're here, let's for a moment just straighten both legs. So again, let's think about the pelvis. When we straighten the legs, did we tip the hips forward? And can we bring them to neutral? Let's try a little posterior tilt. Send the tailbone down. The hip bones come up a little bit. And then come back to neutral versus anterior, which is what we tend to do a lot. So come back to neutral. Now, if we're in neutral and we bend the front knee, it can be challenging if the back leg is straight. So if you need to bend the back knee a little bit to maintain your neutral, that's fine. So try that. If you're in your neutral, you got your maybe a slight amount of sending the tailbone down so you're neutral, and you have your back knee bent a little bit. Can you maintain this if you straighten your back knee? If not, if straightening your back knee tips you forward, keep a little bend in your back knee. Try to find neutral. So with neutral, can we bend the front knee a little more forward? And can we straighten the front leg? So this whole time we're trying to focus on neutral pelvis. We might need to think about sliding the tailbone down a little bit to keep from tipping the pelvis forward. But we're not gripping in the butt to do so. So we're bending and straightening the front knee, trying to maintain neutral, which has the potential to create a more effective stretch in the hip flexor and in the top of the quad muscle here. So then the next time the front knee is bent, you're still in pelvic neutral. Could you lift your sternum up a little bit? Reach the arms out and reach the arms up. Breathing in. Maintaining neutral. And then let's lean forward now. Bring our hands down. And we're just going to drop onto that back knee. We'll push the weight back. We'll try that on the other side. So we're going to step the other foot out in front. Your heel kind of right under your knee. And here we go again, playing around with neutral spine. So maybe we're in neutral right now. So how does it feel if we tip the hip bones forward, send the tailbone back? There's our anterior tilt. Can we come back to neutral? What about if we slide the tailbone down and lift the hip bones up a little bit? That's our posterior tilt. We're going to come back to neutral. Just one more time, do the variation so you feel the difference. Tilt the hips forward and then back to neutral. And then slide the tailbone down, posterior tilt without gripping, and then back to neutral. So can you be in neutral as you start to let the front knee move forward? The pelvis might want to tip forward. So you might think about sliding your tailbone down a little bit. So how far does it feel right for you to go as your knee goes forward so that you can maintain neutral pelvis? Yeah. You might need to put a little activation in the muscles in the belly. You might need to think about sending your tailbone down towards the ground. How does this feel? Notice and breathe. And then you can push back so your hip is over your knee. So now could we curl the back toe under, gather the strength of your leg, and press up into a lunge. Your feet are hip distance apart. You could have a little bend in your back knee. So here, try sliding your tailbone down, posterior tilt, come back to neutral. See if this forward tilt, anterior tilt, seems more like your default, and then find neutral again. Maybe slide your tailbone down a bit. Try not to grip with your butt muscles. And then, what if you straighten your back leg? Your hips probably want to tip forward. Can you be in neutral? Maybe you have to bend the back knee a bit. And then we're going to bend the front knee forward and then straighten the front leg. And try and do that over and over, maintaining neutral spine. So I know this might be challenging for some of us to feel this in our bodies, but this is really good practice, trying to feel what's going on in our bodies, even without being able to see it necessarily. So we're breathing, we're bending and straightening the front knee. We're trying not to tip the hips forward. The next time the front knee is bent, pause there, check in with that neutral, and then can you lift your heart up a bit, maintaining neutral. Reach your arms out and inhale your arms up. Big breath in. And then we'll exhale and lean forward. As your hands come down, you can drop onto that back knee. Great. Let's come onto both knees. And let's make our way to downward facing dog. Breathing in and out here. You might move your hips around a little bit. You might bend your knees a little bit. And let's again walk our hands back towards our feet, planting our heels. Again, bend the knees, lower the hips. We'll bring our hands to hips and just push down into feet and legs to inhale and rise up. Great. Let's come into a wide stride. And we'll go this way. We'll turn the right foot in and turn the left foot out. Nice wide stance. Both feet planted. Back outer foot connected to the floor as we bend the front knee and as we straighten it. Do that a couple of times. So keep trying to keep the hips level as we do this. And then the next time the knee is bent, pause there. Feel your spine nice and upright. Take a breath. Exhale and tip the hips over, letting that bottom arm rest on that bottom leg. Let's take the other arm forward and inhale that arm up toward the ceiling. So from this bottom elbow to that top hand, invite space across your chest, across your upper back. Take a breath. Exhale and release your head to look down. Release your neck. Take another breath. Now lift your bottom hand off your bottom leg and then push into your front foot and rise up. Great. Let's do the other side. Turn that back foot in, turn your right foot out. Feel your feet planted. Push this back foot down as you bend your front knee and straighten. So can you get your hips level as you do this? Your spine upright. The next time the front knee is bent, let's pause here. Take a breath in, lengthening your spine up. Exhale and tip your hips over, bringing that front arm on the front thigh. Take your other arm forward. Inhale that arm up toward the ceiling. Broaden from your bottom elbow to your top hand. Take a breath. Exhale and release your head to look down. Take another breath in and out here. And then let's lift the bottom arm off the bottom leg and then reach up with the top hand to rise up. Great. We'll turn the feet forward. Let's bring our feet together. And we'll work on a little bit of balance here. So if you want to have a chair nearby or have the wall nearby to hold on to, might be a good idea. So we're going to start just bringing the weight onto one leg. And we're just going to lift the other knee up. So as we come here, let's try not to shift the hips to the side. Let's try to keep the hips as level as we can. We'll bring our hands to heart. So we have the knee forward. Let's take that knee out to the side. And then start to let the heel go back and then bring the knee down. Try that again. Bring the knee forward. Take the knee out to the side. Start sending the heel back and then drop the knee down. Let's try it the other way. Send the heel back. Take the knee out to the side, lift it up, and bring it forward. Drop that knee down, take it a little behind, heel goes back, and then turn the knee out to the side, bring the knee out to the side, bring it forward. Now, we're going to take that ankle, we're going to bend the standing leg and drop that ankle onto this standing leg, bending that standing leg knee. Let's reach the arms out in front. You can flex your foot on that top leg. Can you sit back here? So we're working on balance. We're getting a bit of a stretch in the outer hip on that top leg. Can you sit back any further without tipping over? And take a breath. And then come on up and we'll change legs. Okay. Bring your hands to heart. We're going to work the other leg. We're going to bring the knee up. We're going to open that knee out to the side. Send the heel back a little bit and then bring the knee down. Try that again. Bring the knee forward. Open it out to the side. Send the heel back and bring the knee down. Try the other way. Take it out to the side and then bring the knee forward and then drop it down. Take it a little behind, heel is back. Take it out to the side. Bring it forward All right, now turn the knee out a little bit. We're going to bring the ankle above the standing knee and then bend the standing leg and start to sit back. Bending, bending, bending that standing leg. You can flex your top foot. Let's reach the arms forward. And can we sit back a little further? And take a breath. Nice job. And then we'll come back up to stand. Good work. All right. So at this point, we're going to transition to the wall. So hopefully you have some place where you can set yourself up so that you can be using a wall. And we're going to sit sideways to the wall. And then we're going to lie ourselves down. Hope you can hear me. Okay. So as we lie down, our bum is close to the wall, but it's not right up against the wall. Your legs are on the wall, hip distance apart. Your arms are down at your side. So begin by pressing your heels into the wall. And as your heels press into the wall, feel the backs of your legs fire. And then as your heels press into the wall, feel as though you're clawing your heels down so that there's quite a bit of action in the backs of your legs. As you're pressing your heels in and clawing your heels down now, start to lift your low back off the floor, lift your mid back off the floor, continue to lift up and up like you're lifting into a bridge till you bring the weight up onto your shoulders. Take a breath at the top and then use the strength of your legs to slowly, gradually release your spine down, vertebra by vertebra, by vertebra, by vertebra. Take your time. See if you can articulate your spine on the way down. See if there's an area where a big chunk comes down at once, and we're going to try and loosen that up because we'll do this a few more times. Once you're all the way down, let everything relax and take a breath. And then do it again. Push your heels into the wall. Feel as though you're clawing your heels down. Fire up your hamstrings, and then use that strength to bring your hips up and up and up and up. Weight comes onto the shoulders. Take a breath at the top. And then a nice, slow, gradual unfurling of the spine, incrementally releasing vertebra by vertebra by vertebra, including doing that in the lumbar spine, if possible, isolating, articulating your low back until you're all the way down, relaxing and taking a breath. So now you can continue to go up and down as we've been doing, or you could start the same way, press your heels, pull your heels down, bring the weight up onto your shoulders. And if you like from here, you could bring your hands onto your low back, snug your elbows in close, and then take one leg off the wall. Maybe put that leg back, take the other leg off, or take both legs off, making your way into shoulder stand. You want your elbows in close. You can snug them in a bit more if you like. And you're pushing down with the back of your forearms. Your legs don't need to be straight up. They can be on an angle, kind of back, or just over your head. And you might enjoy being in shoulder stand for a while. You might be just rolling up and rolling down. There's always the option to just have your back on the ground and your legs up on the wall for a nice restorative legs up the wall pose. So lots of options here. You might be in shoulder stand. You might just have your legs up the wall. You might be articulating up and down. Wherever we are, we're breathing. We're noticing the feeling of our body and whatever we're doing. Maybe we're offering ourselves something that we could use a little more of today with our breath. So just being with legs up the wall is perfectly fine. Blood is flowing from the legs back to the heart. If we're in shoulder stand, we might begin to transition now. You could bring your legs to the wall and roll down. You could bring your knees to nose and roll down. You could bring your toes overhead into plow pose. And then we have one more opportunity to articulate the spine as we roll down here, taking our time to unfurl. And ending up with legs on the wall. We'll take a breath in and out. And then let's place our feet on the wall. Just push yourself away. Give yourself some room so that you could roll to your side and push yourself back up. Let's now, we're going to do, for those who've done shoulder stand, we want to do a neck release. So we'll just all do this together. Hopefully everybody has some sort of cushion for your head, like a blanket or a pillow or something that you could use to cushion your head a little bit. I'd like y'all to lie down with a little bit of cushion under your head, ideally, kind of snugged up against your shoulders. Take a moment, lift your head up, and kind of imagine you're really hot and sweaty. You're kind of pulling your hair off of the base of your skull, kind of lengthening the back of the neck, and then kind of centering your head. So when you lay your head down, the back of the neck is long, and your head is very centered. You're looking straight up. If your hair is tight, just kind of loosen that up. Okay, so with your head centered on a cushion, I want us, as we breathe in, to just press the back of the head into that cushioning. So your neck muscles are working to press the back of your head down. And then as we exhale, we'll release that pressure. So the in-breath, the back of the head presses into the cushion. And then the exhale, we release. So you're not pressing with all your might, just some firm pressure. Pressing the back of the head down as you breathe in. And then releasing that pressure on the exhale. All right, now lift your head up and cradle your head with your right hand. Now your head is centered along the line of your spine. We want to try to maintain that alignment, not let the head veer off to the side, but with our hands supporting our head, we're going to rotate the head to the left without veering off of that line. So your head doesn't go side to side, it just rotates. And can you slide your hand out so that your ear is down on the blanket or the cushion now? So your head hasn't veered to the side, it's still in line with your spine. But now as you breathe in, can you press your ear down into the blanket? And as you exhale, just release that pressure. If you feel like you need a little more height, you could, double up your pillow or your blanket. Press down as you breathe in. Release that pressure on the exhale. And then one more time on this side. After you release the next exhale, you can let your head slide back to center. So reconnect with that line of your spine. Lift your head up and cradle your head with your left hand now. So can you keep your neck in line with your spine, your head in line with your spine as you rotate your head with your hand the other way. Rotating until your right ear now is right above the blanket. And then slide your hand out. You haven't tipped your head forward. It's aligned with your spine. And then you're going to press your ear into the blanket as you breathe in. And then release that pressure as you breathe out. And just a couple more like this. Breathing in and pressing down. Breathing out and releasing. One more time. Breathing in and pressing down. Breathing out and releasing. And then release your head back to center. All right, so we're going to move into our final relaxation. You might want one more movement before you do that. I always like to finish with a nice little twist. Maybe there's something else your body is wanting. So there's one more movement you want to offer yourself. Go ahead and do so. And then begin to transition into your final relaxation. So that might mean something under your head or under your knees. You can extend your legs out. Find a comfortable place for your arms. And when you've made yourself comfortable, you might let your eyes close and begin to feel your body slowly, gradually dropping more and more into a state of ease and relaxation. So just allowing the body to relax now. Feeling the weight of your heels, your calves, the weight of your low back, all releasing into the floor. Feeling the belly begin to soften, release, unclench, relax. Feeling the weight of the shoulders and arms resting on the floor. Feeling the muscles of the chest softening, relaxing, opening. Feeling the heaviness of the head resting back and allowing all the facial muscles to soften, smooth, release and relax. And just letting the mind come along. Body and mind at rest now. If the mind begins to think or plan, just bring it back. Let it be like the body, just resting now. Easy. So if you want to stay lying down, welcome to do so. If you're ready to finish up here, you can begin to open your eyes. You might begin to bring your feet to the floor. You could gently roll to your side and begin to push yourself up. As we finish up our practice today, just a little gentle reminder, we took this time and we offered ourselves our attention and we paid attention to ourselves, we listened to ourselves, and we tried, I think, to be good to ourselves, bringing health and vitality to us. And so now we approach the rest of our day, and except for Lena, who's in Sweden. But how do we want to move forward from here? Take a moment, and we could set that same intention of what we offer to ourselves. Perhaps we want to offer that to those we encounter either in person or digitally today. Or maybe there's something else you'd like to manifest or bring forth into your day. So just take a moment. Whenever we really focus our intention, we tend to be more effective at achieving, what we want. So maybe a moment or two here to think about how we want to move forward. And then recognizing that light, that spirit, that spark that's within you. I see that light. I honor each of you for your practice. Thanks for coming this morning. Peace be with you. So you're welcome to come and say hello or goodbye, or move on with your day, whatever's better for you.
Thank you.